If you could give a welcome to Chimaechi Allan. Chimaechi Allan. So this is the profile that she sent to us, and I've got to read it out. I thought it was.
Oh Lord!
It says, a funny thing happened in Lagos while on holiday from publishing multicultural children's books in London. Chimaechi discovered a bookshop with no books for African children. After this, she founded Keo Global, a company that would join the dots and distribute multicultural and multilingual children's books all over the world. Since then, Chimaechi has presented at many education conferences and run workshops on schools in West Africa. While working and planning her wedding in 2014, a talking lizard took her on a journey through the wedding traditions around the world, and she wrote down everything that was said. The wedding week is going to be published. It's going to be published later this month. So welcome.
Thank you.
Would you like to start by telling us a bit more about the lizard and what it said and why a lizard?
Well, any Nigerians, there's always Nigerians in the house, so hey.
Woo!
They'll know, and many other people know as well, that lizards are kind of ubiquitous in the tropics. You just see them everywhere, kind of nodding as people pass by, just like, hey, how you doing? And you tend to find animal characters in children's books quite a lot as either the narrative figure or just a foil for the main character. So people like Jiminy Cricket or a mouse character. But I thought for a book set in Lagos, a lizard would be quite a good character to have, because geckos are found on every continent, apart from the really cold ones.
Right, okay. But not necessarily at weddings, so what's the connection
well,
to
they
the
get
wedding?
around. They get around. I've been at church in Abuja, and there are lizards kind of just nodding their head to the music. So I just thought a lizard would be a good character to have.
So would you tell us a little bit about the wedding week?
Yes. The reason why I'm holding what looks like so many copies is that it's been printed in 5 different editions. This is the first print run, and I've only got this set, so I do apologise. The rest are somewhere in Hong Kong, and they're on their way here. But I felt that I really wanted to see my parents' language, my mother tongue, Igbo, in print. I didn't see that growing up. It was a very wonderful thing to see. I'm not sure if you've been in the lifts at Russell Square Station, you'll see SOAS Language School is advertised, and to see that you can go and learn Igbo, to see it written down, to see educational resources in Igbo for Igbo, it was just like, whoa! I didn't realise that this could be done. I didn't realise this was a thing. So just to see this language and to see other similar languages, Yoruba, which has a long print tradition, but I didn't see many children's books in high quality in Yoruba, so that's why I wanted to produce it in that, and Hausa as well, and English and American English, so the main languages of Nigeria and of many other countries too.
Okay, and the story? What's the story?
Well,
Can you just tell us a little bit and then we
yeah, sure. So the wedding week, it's kind of a journey around traditional weddings. So you kind of go through a week of life with Femi and Kemi and Gecko the lizard. So doing all their normal stuff, going to school, making akara with grandpa, cleaning the house, going to the market. But each day they learn a different thing that happens at weddings, both in Nigeria and around the world, because they're in anticipation of this wedding that's going to happen on the Saturday at the end of the book. So it was just I'm not sure if you've been to any Nigerian, anyone been to a Nigerian wedding? Yeah. You usually kind of have the traditional wedding, and then a week goes by, and then you have the church wedding, or you have it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that wedding week was the week that I wanted to focus on, the bit between the bit kind of leading up to the big celebration, and these kids have not experienced it before, so they're like, what's going to happen there, what are we going to do there? So we learn all these different aspects.
Right, okay. You want to read?
Yeah, sure.
So we get a flavour of it.
I think you'll be able to follow me for a few pages there. I think I might have put the Igbo one up, but I'm not going to attempt, because I'm going to get told off. I always get told off. Okay, so, well, first things first, we have beautiful end papers where you get your jollof rice and your ashoebi and your cola nuts and your coral beads. And then we have the title page. And we start off with Gecko introducing us.
Which language is this?
So this is the Igbo one, so this is the language that my parents speak. And that I speak only a restaurant amount of. I know when I'm being told off, and I know when to come and eat, and I know a few other things. But through this process, I've learnt a lot more, and I'm really, really excited about that. So I'll read the English for you. Hello, I'm Gecko. Come with me to Cousin Io's wedding. These are the words you will need. So you see, you get all sorts of vocabulary there. On Saturdays, Femi and Kemi help Mummy clean the house, play football, and read their favourite books. But this Saturday is different. It's the start of the wedding week. Mummy, said Kemi excitedly, there are 7 days until Cousin Io's wedding. I can't wait. We'll get to play with all our cousins instead of just Femi. We will have much more fun than that, laughed Mummy. You just wait and see. Let's go to the market and buy the couple some gifts. Mummy chose strange gifts. She picked dark, sticky honey, so that their life together will be sweet, she said. She picked bitter cola nuts, so that they remember to love each other even when bad things happen. She picked spicy atara pepper, so that their family will have children, just like the pepper has seeds. I don't want this kind of gift, Femi coughed. Do they give gifts at every wedding, Mummy? Oh, yes. In China, friends of the bride and groom put money in red envelopes as gifts. There, bright red is the colour of good luck. That night, Femi and Kemi dreamed of a Chinese wedding with bright red envelopes, lanterns, and steaming hot tea. On Sunday, Grandpa and the twins made akara bean cakes together. I can't wait, Grandpa. Only 6 days left until we can play and give gifts at Cousin Io's wedding. Oluwakemi will eat too, Grandpa laughed. There will be clouds of smooth pounded yam, runny vegetable soup, spicy meat, and jollof rice. Femi drooled. Do they eat food at every wedding, Grandpa? Oh yes, Olufemi. In Brazil, the bride and groom eat fluffy, sweet bem casado cakes with sticky cream in the middle. They wrap them in colourful tissue paper and give them to all their guests. That night, Femi and Kemi dreamed of peanut sauce, okra gumbo, and delicious creamy cakes.
That's brilliant, thank you very much.
So you were planning your wedding last year, so is there anything of your wedding in there? Just to tell us.
You know how that people say you shouldn't waste your pain, you should spin your pain into gold. Wedding prep is a completely foreign territory, probably for most people, and it's remarkable how much there is to think about. So yes, in the process of thinking about all these things, it occurred to me that weddings are such a great vehicle for the bringing together of cultures, not just the separating out, but the similarities in the way we like to celebrate. What can everybody definitely enjoy? Food.
Okay.
What can everybody definitely enjoy? Dance.
Yeah.
You know,
okay.
so
Music.
things like that.
Okay, brilliant. So tell us about Kio Global.
Yeah, I founded a company called Kio Global. It's called Kio because I call my sister Ki, and her surname begins with O, so it's named after her. After that funny thing happened in Lagos, it was a real eye-opener to see, not just in London, the scarcity of multicultural, multilingual literature, but in Lagos, to go into a bookshop where there's no black kids on the books in 2008. I was just like, you trifled with the wrong girl. You shouldn't have shown me this. So the idea was seeded in my mind because I was then working for Tamarind, whose illustrious founder is here, Verna Wilkins, who many of you know. And it just made sense to me to join the dots such that publishers like Tamarind and others who publish multicultural literature will actually be able to go further. And what was really encouraging was to go to Lagos, to go to Abuja and see how teachers are actually looking for world-class literature, world-class resources, this whole idea of it being good enough for Africa is not gonna cut it with especially not with the Nigerian private sector. So it was wonderful to take high quality resources, the best that the world's publishers have to offer, that are made in their image and likeness, and show it to them. You know, people have never seen their language written or never seen it.
So the books that you're publishing before the wedding,
yeah,
the ones that you're publishing come from all over.
So I was just distribution before, so I was
yes.
just distributing for other publishers. This is the first one that we've published.
Okay, so those
yeah.
ones. So how did you go about finding the ones that you?
Well,
you know, how
exposure.
do you maintain the quality?
Exposure. It's places like your blog and places like this. You get exposed to different works that are happening, and it is a very disparate world. You know, if you're an author, you're kind of at your desk, kind of like a golem figure, just you know, typing with your manuscript. But once you get out into the world, it's wonderful to find other people with like minds who are doing similar things, but not just similar things, but things of just world-class quality. That's my bottom line. It's not that I look for things by black authors or for black children. I look for stuff that is just the best that the world can offer, and that reflects the people I'm going to give it to. Yeah. That's essentially what I'd like to do.
Okay, and had you always thought that you might write? Because of course when I first met you, you were tamarind, but you were very kind of
I've skirted around it for quite some time. So I when I look back, I realise it was always going to be something to do with books, because I used to fill up exercise books just with story ideas, so just reams and reams of books of just ideas, and so then to go on and study English and go on and work in publishing, I was kind of skirting around the issue for a long time. So this is after a lot of procrastination. Finally done something.
Yeah. And how many other nations are there in there? How many other wedding things from other countries are in
every day has at least one other culture in it. So you saw China and Brazil. There are at least 3 or 4 other countries, and then further cultures within Africa. So yes, there are more than 7 cultures represented in that.
Okay, and were there any you left out as well?
Not deliberately, not deliberately, but I think it was just highlighting the similarities was important to me, rather than saying I am Indian and therefore I am different from you in this way. I didn't really want to focus on the differences. I wanted to kind of underline how similar everybody seems to be when it comes to joy. You know, how do we express joy? We all seem to go for similar things.
Yeah. Okay. And the illustrations are really superb. Tell me about how you found the illustrator.
The illustrator is an incredibly clever girl, and we have a picture of her working. Archie will do me the favour. She is a collage artist, and this is her first book. You wouldn't believe it from the quality of the stuff that she's put out, but she is a collage artist, newly graduated, had been in the working world for a year, and this was her first full-length book, so it was wonderful to be working with someone who needed the opportunity and who would she went out of her way to research different cultures, went out of her way to send me different patterns and match. You see the lace on this couple's Ashoebi. You know that's the expensive stuff and that's the cheaper stuff. You can tell because she's researched it. So gelés and how it folds and all of that. She did all the research, and it was wonderful to work with her.
And how long? So from the idea to write the book, how long did that take? And then tell us about the publishing process that took place after that.
Okay.
And the differences as well between it being your own book as opposed to managing someone else's.
Yeah.
So first the writing, how long did that take?
The writing, surprisingly, didn't take as long as I thought it might. I'm very fortunate to have been involved in the creation of books before now, so there are some principles that I sort of began to understand about children's literature, such as take a child's eye view. whatever you're writing for children, take their point of view, because otherwise they're not interested. And things like trial and error. Life is a series of problems and trials and then solutions. So principles like that really helped to structure the writing before I ever really started it. But the idea came when I was in Nigeria for a few education events, and I was just lying on a bunk bed, and it sort of hit me as these things can do.
Okay. And then the publishing, the kind of organising of getting it published after that.
Yeah, so organising the publication was a very real learning curve. So it was the first time I'd been wearing the sort of publisher
All the hats.
wearing all the hats. But it was, I was very clear about what I would like, because the thing was always to start with the end user, start with the person who's going to read it. And so I read with year ones for a year. I sat with teachers in Lagos and in London and listened to what they wanted. And that will always guide your thinking. If you know who it's for, it will guide your thinking on how it should be executed. But the publishing process, the first thing was to find the illustrator, and once having done that, find a designer to guide that illustration process. I'm not particularly visual, I can't even see very well, so having a designer to say, this is the feeling that we want to create, this is how we want to move things around, this is how the text and the image can interact, and this is how we can visualize certain things. Hiring the designer was a massive part of the undertaking, and then all the translators, so going to places like SOAS, going to Nigerian newspapers for journalists to do the Hausa, all these different steps. They took time, but it was basically September till now, so it's actually quicker than I thought it would be.
Okay, well done. And so you sort of talked about the curriculum. I was talking to teachers in London and teachers in Lagos. What, are there similarities between the curriculum or differences? How have you applied any of that information, given that it's a book for quite young children?
The main thing that I found to be really different was things like phonics. So you take for granted that phonics are just what they are. This is the sound-based system of learning to read. But if you have a Nigerian accent, then phonics have changed. Or if you have a northern accent from the north of England, phonics changes again. So it's things like that are taken for granted and exported all over the world. We want to teach using phonics. We send it out from England into international schools all over the world, and they try and teach it in our image and likeness in England, and it doesn't quite match. So I wanted to take into account the kind of sounds, the kind of images, the kind of basic things, like A is for apple. Well, not necessarily, depending on where in the world you are.
Okay.
Just basic things like that. But the curriculum for year one is going to be pretty much the same. The order of the day is to learn reading and arithmetic,
and basic numbers.
But there's stuff to do with culture and the wider world. But essentially, it's the same. But you just need to kind of come at it with a more open mind than perhaps we're used to seeing here.
Okay. And have you been reading it? I know it's not quite out, but you've been researching it. So that's sort of between teaching it in London.
Yeah, so I took the manuscript to Lagos and road tested it there with year ones and twos, and they don't pull punches. Kids don't lie. So so it's good. It was good to get their feedback. So the first illustration of the book you may never see. It's what they drew. So I would read out what happened on Saturday and they would draw it. I would read out what happened on Sunday and they would draw it. So they actually illustrated the book the first time around. And then
and then you went to this version.
Yeah.
So what kind of things did you, because they would come from all different directions, so what kind of things did they draw?
I mean, they I think essentially taking their point of view is the main thing. Just not talking over them. I sort of felt when I was growing up that culture was somewhat medicinal, like it was kind of shoved down your throat. Okay. This is our culture, you know, like, you know, it wasn't like a fun thing that you kind of enjoy. And I wanted to really, why shouldn't they enjoy it? Why shouldn't they? I didn't want it to be medicinal and kind of dry, so I wanted it to be a story, not just a, this is what they do here, this is what they do there. So things like eating the pepper, things like, you know, sneaking a kebab when everyone else is dancing, like all that kind of stuff. Just little details. Gecko is on every page and you've got to kind of find him. Little things like that, I think, really allow the children to sort of enjoy and take ownership of the book.
As well. So they can as much read it themselves as
yes.
it be read to
exactly.
them. They still enjoy
exactly.
it as well. So what are your plans for promoting the book once it's out? What have you got in store?
I've got a lot to do. I've got a lot to do. This is the first time I'll be selling into the US, so that presents a whole other big to-do list. But I think the publicity is threefold. It's educational, so talking about the educational merits of the book. It's cultural, talking about the linguistic and cultural aspects. But there's also the entrepreneurial aspect. So this wouldn't be here if it weren't for people funding the printing of this through a crowdfunding site called Kickstarter. I don't know if any of you there are nodding heads. So a lot of money was raised by people who saw this cause and thought, yes, I'm going to put my money where my causes are, and back
so
to
how much did you raise on Kickstarter?
You can see it on the site, but I can't remember the exact figure. It's about £8,000.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. And so what's the print run then? Because you've got different languages.
So there are 5 languages. It's the first print run is just 2,000 copies, but if I say just 2,000, if they're all going to be in my house, that's enough. But yeah, it divided up into the different languages.
Right. Okay. So and what can people get them?
They can get them from my website. They'll be on Amazon. There's also the ebook, so on iTunes, on Kindle, and on my website. So wherever you buy it, if you buy it, I'm very honoured that you would.
And you can place orders today.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I'm saying that tentatively. So the entrepreneurial story is always happening. The bulk of these. So these are 5. So 1,995 are in Hong Kong on their way here. So I don't have an exact pub date as yet, but just come and see me at the table if you'd like a coffee and we'll make it happen.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A little bit of time for 2 questions. 1. 2 minutes.